Hi kids, Merry Christmas. We are actually in the Christmas season as it's December already, but we do have one more lesson that we want to cover before we get to our lessons about the birth of Jesus this month. And that lesson has to do with David and the giant. Now before I start that part of the lesson, it is Christmas season, and you know, every Christmas season there seems to be something special out that everyone wants to buy. This year, I believe it is this guy, the Child. The Child is a Star Wars character from a show called The Mandalorian. And he comes in different forms now where you can buy him, and I've got stocking stuffers for my kids. This one looks like he's going on a roller coaster. And The Mandalorian is a show that my son and I have been watching every week. We stay up till midnight on Thursday night and watch it as soon as it releases. And it's been very exciting and fun to share with each other. Now there was an episode earlier in season 2 that reminded me of the David and the Giant story. And it was when the Child's friend, the Mandalorian, was attacked by this horrible creature that came after him and was stomping on him and was about to kill him. And then he was going to turn on the Child. And as he came to the Child did this. And he used what is called the Force. Now the Force is a pretend thing that is in the Star Wars saga. And the animal came and stopped and then rose in the air and couldn't move. And the Child stopped the terrible creature from hurting his friend, the Mandalorian. When I watched that episode, it reminded me of David and the Giant, of all things. David was just a kid. He might have been 10 or 11 years old, and he actually came to this battle that Israel was having with the Philistines. And the Philistines decided to say, hey, why have all this bloodshed? Why kill everybody? We're going to put our best guy out, the giant, against your best guy, and whoever wins the war. The problem is all the Israeli army were so scared of the giant that they didn't want to fight him. Now, when we think of giants, we think of the giant in the beanstalk and maybe something that's 30 feet high. This guy was probably 9 or 10 feet tall. He was really tall for that time because most people weren't even 6 feet tall. And none of the soldiers in the Israeli army would battle this guy. And David had shown up to bring food to his brothers. And we heard about this. He couldn't believe that no one would rise up and fight. And so he volunteered, even though he was a kid. And he couldn't even wear the armor that the army was wearing because he was too small for that. But he had such courage that he went up against the giant. And I think most of you know the story. David had a slingshot, put a rock in it, swung it around, took a shot at the giant and hit him right in the forehead. Now people who hear that story for the first time might think, well, that was just luck. Well, that's not what it was. David was using a skill set that he had. What people don't realize is David had a job as a young boy. His chore was to watch the sheep. And that sounds boring, except it's not, because out in the desert where the sheep were, in the sheep pen, they were constantly under attack by lions and bears. And David had to have a skill set that could fight off the lions and bears. So he developed this ability through practice of fighting off the lions and bears with a slingshot with rocks. So he used his skills. And so what can we learn from that? You know, we're living in 2020, and obviously we're not going to be attacked by lions and bears in the city, and certainly not by creatures like this because they're just make-believe. But we need to have courage too and try to use the skills that God has given us to serve Him. If you know Jesus as your Lord and Savior, your forever friend and leader, you were given a spiritual gift. And that gift can be used to serve God and His people. And one of the challenges I would give you is to start thinking about what is my gift and what are my skills and what are my talents, And how can I step up in courage to use those to serve other people for God? That is the story that we can learn from David. It's not just about his courage, it's about using the skills God has given him to do good. So I hope you will think about that and start contemplating, how can I serve God and what am I good at? You might want to start talking to your parents about that. What kind of things are you really good at that you can share in God's church? All right, kids, we're looking forward to seeing you next week when we talk about that incredible event, the birth of Jesus. Bye-bye.